everyone, here is a chain rule extra help video with an intro inspired by Travis Tran's last video comment. So here are some calc memes for your entertainment here. And keep in mind with the chain rule that this is going to be some very difficult simplifying work. It's not the calculus that's going to be difficult, it's going to be the algebra, which, as this picture here says, is the algebra that kills you. The calc stuff itself isn't going to be too bad. It's just the product rule or the quotient rule combined with chain rule, but it's getting those common denominators that's going to make it tricky. So whenever I had to in class, we did the first example, which was secant of 3x over the square root of 8x cubed plus 2. I'm not going to do that one again. We already did it in class. We're going to do a second example. And this one, so write this down. I would add this after your chain rule notes just to have, because simplifying, getting those common denominators is really tricky, and especially knowing when to stop. So I'm going to have sine of 7x cubed times the fourth root of x cubed plus 2. Now immediately I'm thinking I'm going to need product rule because I have two things multiplied together with chain rule. Ooh. All right, anyway, so before I actually take a derivative, I'm going to rewrite this fourth root as x cubed plus 2 to the 1/4 power. So now that I did that, I'm actually going to put a prime here because I'm ready to do a derivative. Now doing the derivative, you're going to need a long line, so make sure you're starting way on the left here. I'm going to do the first, not going to touch it, times the derivative of the second. So let's bring the 1/4 down. This, now remember, there's two layers here. This is the inside layer, this is the gum, and this is the candy. So you're going to eat the candy first. You're not at the gum yet, so don't touch it. I'm finishing my derivative. 1/4 minus 1 is -3/4. Now I'm done with the candy. I'm ready to eat the gum, so do the derivative, 3x squared. Okay, then I'm going to add, again, I need chain rule because here is my inside, the 7x squared. Here's my outside, the sine. There's only two layers, so you should only be doing two derivatives. So let's do the derivative of the outside. We're going to eat the candy first. Derivative of sine is cosine. We're not at the gum yet. Don't touch the gum. Now the candy is done. Multiply by the derivative of the inside. And then I multiply that by the second. I'm not going to touch it. So I'm finishing up my product rule. So I have first times derivative of second plus derivative of first times second. Now calculus is done. Like I did the chain rule and I did the product rule. Now you just have to simplify. So let's bring the 3x squared out front. Otherwise it's going to get lost. Then I have sine of 7x squared. That 1/4, let's just put the 4 in the denominator, and then I have x cubed plus 2 to the 3/4 because I want to make it positive because I'm on my way to getting common denominators. I'm going to bring my 14x out front before I lose it. I have cosine of 7x squared. And what do I have left? X cubed plus 2 to the 1/4 power. Now right now, this is all over a denominator of 1, and in order to have these fully simplified, we need a common denominator. So if that's 1, and that's this whole thing, 4 times x squared, or x cubed plus 2 to the 3/4, both denominators need to be that. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom of this second term by my common denominator. I'm essentially multiplying by 1 because this divided by this is just 1. And this is pretty cool. Check this out. Ready? I have x cubed plus 2 and I shouldn't go over that in purple. And x cubed plus 2 here. And we add our exponents whenever we multiply. And 1/4 plus 3/4 is 4/4, which is just 1. So these nasty fractional exponents completely go away right there. So that's progress. So let's just rewrite this one here. Nothing has changed here. X cubed plus 2 to the 3/4. And that's a 3/4 right there. I have 14x. I have cosine of 7x squared. And, oh, okay, I had that 4, and I should have multiplied that by the 14, huh? So let's make that correction right now and make that a 56. Okay, and then I have just x cubed plus 2. That's to the first power now. You don't even have to put that 1 if you don't want. And that's over our denominator. And there's just one last thing I need to do. Let me zoom or scroll up here. And that's to write it over that common denominator. One other thing I could do is I could multiply or distribute this here and here, and then put my cosine of 7x squared at the end. That would make it look a little more tidy. So 3x squared times sine of 7x squared plus, let's distribute. So now I have 56x to the fourth, because 56x times x cubed, plus, what is that, 112? Yeah, 112x times cosine of 7x squared. And that is all over my common denominator. 4 times x cubed plus 2 to the 3/4. And we're done. All the way simplified. I have common denominators. And I'm happy. So I'm going to do one more with you here. Make sure you copied that down all the way before you can zoom or go back if you forgot to copy a step down. So now we're going to do example number 3. Example number 3, let's get some more trig action here. Tangent to the fourth of x squared minus 2 all over 5x cubed. One thing you should always do, it helps you see the layers better with trig functions, is if you have a trig function with an exponent in the middle, that just means the entire thing is raised to that exponent. So let's see, I have the gum in the middle, and then I have my candy, and then I have my wrapper. So 3 layers, so I should be doing 3 derivatives. Okay, let's do it. So let's take off the wrapper of the candy, that's the 4. I'm not touching the gum, or the candy, and I'm not touching the gum either. And that was a 3 right there. Okay, so that derivative's done. Throw away the wrapper. Let's get to the candy. So now derivative of tangent is secant squared. I'm still not touching the inside. I'm not there yet. And then now that we did the wrapper and the candy, we're finally ready for the gum. Now the problem with this is when we do the derivative of the gum, the total inside, that's going to involve the quotient rule. So this is like a quadruple whammy here. So bottom, ho, d high minus high, d ho, all over 5x cubed squared. Okay, so stop for a second and make sure you're okay with everything I did right there. My next step, I'm not really going to touch any of these yet. I'm going to just simplify this because this is a mess right here. So 5x cubed times 2x is 10x to the fourth. Then I'm going to distribute 15x squared to each of these. So 15x squared times x squared. So I have minus 15x to the fourth, and then minus 30x squared. And that's all over 25x to the sixth. All I did in my next step is I distributed this negative here and here. So now I'm looking at minus 15x to the fourth plus 30x squared. Now I'm going to look for more simplifying. I can do 10x to the fourth minus 15x to the fourth. So let's rewrite everything again. So 4 times the tangent of x squared minus 2 over 5x cubed, that's all cubed, times secant squared, x squared minus 2 over 5x cubed. And let's see, minus 5x to the fourth plus 30x squared, whoa, all over 25x to the sixth. So now I'm going to look at this here and say, okay, I have x to the fourth, x to the sixth, and x squared, and then I have 5, 25, and 30. Then you want to think, is there anything they all have in common that you could cancel out? And in fact, here you have 5x squared that you can cancel out of all the terms. So I'm going to do that next. So once you cancel, you have negative x squared plus 6 all over 5x to the fourth left over. And then the only other thing you could really do is, these are just trig functions. You can't really touch those. You cannot touch what's inside the trig functions. I have this constant 4 and this quotient right here. You can take the 4 and distribute it here and distribute it here. So let's go ahead and do that and then bring all the yellow up front. So 4 times negative x squared is negative 4x squared. 4 times 6 is 24. It's really 4 over 1 times that. So where is this? My denominator is not changing. It's still 5x to the fourth. And then I'm still going to multiply by my tangent and my secant squared. So a lot of writing is involved in these. I definitely realize that. It's a little bit tedious, but it's good for your algebra skills. And if you can do these, then you can do any problem on the AP exam. So get these examples down with the one I did in class and get to work on your chain rule homework. You have the quarter slip of paper, you have the bookwork, and you have the e to the x video and ln of x video. So I will see you Monday and have a great rest of your weekend.